Hello and welcome to Peninsula Backstage, the show that looks inside local live theater and talks about upcoming productions that you can go see. I'm Nina Perry and I'm your host. Silicon Valley Shakespeare is presenting William Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar from July 29th through September 2nd at Sanborn Park in Saratoga. Today on Peninsula Backstage, we'll be talking with Richard Farrell, the director of Julius Caesar, Piccotto, who is playing the role of Cassius and who is also the dramaturg for this production, and Larry Barrett, who's playing the role of Brutus and who is also the fight choreographer. Richard and Dahl and Larry, welcome to Peninsula Backstage. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Excellent. So, William Shakespeare needs no introduction, but tell us about Julius Caesar and Silicon Valley Shakespeare's approach to it in this production.
We are taking a modern approach to the play in terms of the way that the play is designed and from both the set point of view, from the costume point of view. And the decision to do this, really, I think, number one, is to make the class system of Shakespeare's play a little bit clearer to the audience, so the audience understands who the ruling Senate class is, who the military class is, and who the citizen plebeian class is. I think it'll make that clearer for them. That's one of the reasons. And also, because we wanted to open up the opportunity for more women to have roles in the show, I felt that it would be a little easier for the audience to accept women in some of the major roles if the play was set in a more contemporary world.
Okay. And Dahl, you're playing Cassius.
Yes.
And that is a role usually played by a man.
Yes,
traditionally
it is.
So. Okay. All right.
It's exciting for me. I mean, when you think about it, technically all of Shakespeare's roles were originally written for men. Women weren't allowed to be on stage. But it is an exciting opportunity. I enjoy playing male roles in Shakespeare. It's an opportunity that a lot of women don't get. And especially in a production like this, when we're doing a more modern take on it, where women are in the military and women are running for political office, there's absolutely no reason that they shouldn't be.
Right. So let's remind our viewers about the plot of Julius Caesar. So what is the premise?
Well, Rome is in crisis. There is a particular leader at the moment who is being offered the opportunity to be the sole dictator of the country. And there are a group of men and women who are quite strongly against this particular position. These are men and women who are senators, who are very high in the governmental structure of Rome at the time. And it is this conflict of who will take on Rome now. Will Rome be led by a dictator, by a single figurehead, a single person, or will the more Republican ideas that have always been a part of Rome be maintained and perhaps extend to a further power structure? So that's basically where we are in the story.
Okay.
And what happens, well, we all know what happens historically, but I think that what Shakespeare is really interested in, I hope, that we are maintaining this, is the people, the human beings, the inner conflicts, the drives that are driving all these different forces who want to ultimately achieve power in Rome.
And this segues into a question about why you think Shakespeare's works have endured for so long.
Well, wasn't it Ben Jonson that said Shakespeare wasn't just for one era, he was for all time? Shakespeare's themes throughout his works are universal. Romeo and Juliet, falling in love with someone that your parents don't approve of. Almost everybody's gone through that. Being part of a political system where maybe the leader in charge you think isn't the best one for the country. I think even now we can really relate to that. And because of those universal themes, we can place Shakespeare almost in any time period, in any area, any region, any social setting, and he has themes in it that resonate still.
I mean, I think the play could be set within the Elizabethan context, the way Shakespeare probably had it produced. The play obviously can be set within the pre-Christian context, with togas and the like. But I think the universality of the people will still be evident to an audience.
So, Larry, what appeals to you most about doing Shakespeare versus contemporary work?
The language. I think it's the language. I enjoy doing contemporary work as well, but you don't get the beautiful speeches. You don't get the epic level of emotion and the like. So what Shakespeare's like grand opera in that regard, and that's kind of powerful.
It has been said that only in Shakespeare can such ordinary people muse and thunder in such lovely language. I think I would agree with Larry on that.
All right. Are there specific techniques you use to learn and memorize your parts, given that the language is not in modern English?
Yeah, so that will vary from show to show. And it's interesting because we've had this conversation before. Some plays, the lines will come to you much faster and easier than others, and for no discernible reason. Blocking is a real key thing.
Okay.
Right?
And that's the movement in the scene.
Also, the pre-work that you do as an actor, the scanning of the verse, and looking for the verbs, looking for what other characters are saying about you, and not just taking scenes out of context, but understanding your character's part in that narrative arc and where they're at that moment. That can all help.
Okay. Any specifics from you?
I enjoy, like Larry said, my favorite part of Shakespeare is the language, but there's a rhythm and a sort of music to verse for me. Each line usually has 10 syllables. There's kind of a heartbeat rhythm to it. So as you're memorizing, if you find all of a sudden you're off a heartbeat, you know that something's wrong and you can figure out where that is. I love the musicality of it. It is like a grand opera when you're in the middle of a big speech and everything is flowing and the words are coming out. It's like no other experience on stage. It's kind of addicting.
So Richard, as a director, how do you help to make the content and language accessible to modern audiences?
Well, I think it behooves me to help the actors to detect all the little clues that Shakespeare gives in the language, all the rhetorical ideas and thoughts, the comparisons, so that all that is clear, and then to encourage the actors to use all the other modern acting techniques that we associate now with modern acting, playing of objectives, playing of actions, so that all the words and all the language is buoyed up by all the action that is by the events that are happening in the story.
All right. I think it's time to see some of this story. So we're going to see a scene performed by Doll and Larry, so I'll excuse them to go get set on our stage. And Richard, can you let us know where this scene fits into the narrative, and is there anything else you'd like to say about it before we watch?
Well, this scene happens quite a ways into the play after Caesar has been assassinated. And the two forces, the Cassius Brutus force and the Antony force, are about to go into battle at Philippi. And so there is disagreement in the Brutus Cassius camp. And this is what we're going to see right now.
All right. Let's watch.
That you have wronged me doth appear in this. You have condemned and noted Lucius Pella for taking bribes here of the Sardians, where in my letters praying on his side because I knew the man were slighted off.
You are wrong to write in such a case.
In such a case as this, it is not meet that every nice offense should bear his comment.
Let me tell you, Cassius, you yourself are much condemned to have an itching palm to sell and march your offices for gold to undeservers.
I an itching palm. You know that you are Brutus that speak this, or by the gods this speech were else your last.
The name of Cassius honors this corruption, and chastisement doth therefore hide his head.
Chastisement?
Remember March, the Ides of March, remember? Did not great Julius bleed for justice' sake? Who did touch his body, that did stab and not for justice? What? Shall one of us that struck the foremost man of all this world, but for supporting robbers? Shall we now contaminate our fingers with base bribes and sell the mighty space of our large honors for so much trash as may be grasped thus? I had rather be a dog and bay at the moon than such a Roman.
Brutus, bay not me, I'll not endure it. You do forget yourself to hedge me in. I am a soldier, elder in practice, abler than yourself to make conditions.
I go too, you are not.
I am.
I say you are not.
Urge me no further, I may forget myself. Think upon your health, tempt me no further.
Away, slight woman.
Is it possible?
Hear me, for I will speak. Must I give way and room to your rash choler? Shall I be frighted when a mad woman stares?
Ye gods, shall I endure all this?
All this, aye, more. Break to your proud heart, break. Go show your slaves how choleric you are and make your bondmen tremble. Must I budge? Must I obey? Must I stand and crouch under your testy humor? Oh, by the gods, you shall digest the venom of your spleen, though it do split you. For from this day forth, I will use you for my mirth. Nay, for my laughter when you are waspish.
Is it come to this?
Yikes, I wonder what's going to happen next.
Wait, stand back.
Richard, tell us about your experience directing this particular scene.
Well, I think this scene actually goes on quite a bit longer. And the anger that both these characters have for the situation that they're in and for one another, and their relationship is quite extensive. It needs to be carefully modulated so that the actors don't blow their gaskets too soon. So that's one of the things that we have to be careful of, and I think these guys are very aware of that. And it's really through the being specific about what actions we're playing, looking for those little clues from the other actor that will allow that stepping up to happen. I don't want to say whether well, obviously they do resolve, but where the scene ends and where the scene goes, I think is a bit unexpected in terms of its emotional power.
Okay. So, Doll and Larry, how about your experience with the scene?
Always love a chance to tell off another character. Dress down another character. Always good to be on that side of it. No, so we've done lots and lots of productions together and have never played characters really that stand in opposition to each other like this.
We had one-line interchange once during The Tempest, and that was it. Otherwise, we're hardly ever on stage together. So this, for us,
we're relishing.
We're loving it.
We're like, yeah.
Finally.
Right? Take that, Doll. No.
It's a complex relationship between Brutus and Cassius, too. I mean, they're brothers-in-law, brother and sister-in-law in our show. So there's a familial bond as well as a conspiratorial bond, a political bond. I mean, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. One of the challenges for me is Brutus is described as sort of sober, stoic. Yeah. The language vacillates in the scene between that calm and then letting the anger sort of out. But then the challenge is to bring it back in, which buys her the ability to call me out on it. So.
And emotionally, where you are at this point, vis-a-vis the other scenes, which the more ruminative scenes.
Yeah. This is
it's
a much
wonderful,
more activated scene in that regard. Yeah, things did not work out the way we had hoped. And I'm disappointed in the way Cassius has conducted herself. So the world is crumbling at this point.
Yes.
Slippery slopes.
All right. So, Doll, you are also the dramaturg for this production. So tell us about the responsibilities of a dramaturg.
Well, for Silicon Valley Shakespeare, the responsibilities of dramaturg are a little bit different. generally in most theater companies, the dramaturg is the person that's the expert on the period you're doing the play in. So if you're doing Guys and Dolls, it's, you know, it's that show, they're going to be into that period and that the gambling and everything like that. For Silicon Valley Shakespeare, when we were started, Dina Myers, who originally started the company, wanted to start a Shakespeare company but didn't know anything about Shakespeare, and so they kind of shanghaied me to go on. So I kind of act as a Shakespeare advocate, as I put it. I'm a resident Shakespeare nerd. I love everything Shakespeare. So I not only teach people about the period that we're doing, I also teach them about the language and what they're saying. Some of our actors are more beginning Shakespeare actors, and I always kind of try to elicit to people, if you're doing a Tennessee Williams play, you're not going to say blah, 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 streetcar named Desire. If there's a word you don't understand, you're going to go and look it up. But so many people assume that because the language is archaic, that the audience isn't going to get it, so therefore they don't have to put in the work as well, which is completely antithetical to our goal at Silicon Valley Shakes. We want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to experience Shakespeare and understand it. So that's sort of what I do, as well as a lot of research.
Accessibility is a big part of the company's mission.
Yes.
Is to, I mean, we sometimes get lost in the theater world, and in particular the classical theater world. There's a tendency to assume that your audience is as informed as you are, and that's a challenge. I mean, our audience in the 21st century is used to small sound bites. Things happen fast and in short bits, as opposed to the Elizabethan audience, who relished this emergence of new language. So making it accessible to the sitting audience right there, that they can enjoy it and not go, oh, it's like being a freshman again.
So speaking of the sitting audience, you're doing the show outdoors in Sanborn Park. So tell us about the challenges and rewards of doing Shakespeare in the park.
They are many.
And myriad. Varied.
The biggest challenge, I think, out there is sound. Not being in a brick and mortar environment, and particularly this stage, does not have a sound bounce behind it. So for many actors who are used to working in acoustically designed spaces, even outdoor spaces, they get there and they start talking, and suddenly they're getting the note louder, louder, no, really louder, because it's like, but I feel like I'm shouting at everybody. You really aren't. You really aren't. So that's the challenge, I think, biggest.
And there are no microphones.
No.
Okay.
Well, not in this production.
No.
Okay.
We've got, you deal with the outside things as well. I mean, you've got airplanes that fly over, and you've got bugs that fly in your mouth, you know.
Raccoons that come running across the stage.
Yeah, steel, I mean, all sorts of stuff. Leaves falling on the stage, branches falling in the audience. We had rain once. I mean, it's always kind of an adventure, but I think that's part of the fun.
Yeah, and the audience loves being out there because it's beautiful. You know, it's not just this neighborhood park, and that's no, you know, disparagement against neighborhood parks, but the redwoods and the creek and the stars, all of that, it's a sweet location to perform in.
Is there anything prospective audience members can do to maximize or enhance their experience when they come see the show?
I always say bring wine.
Oh, okay.
Bring food.
Bring wine and nosh.
Bring friends.
Watch Shakespeare like an Elizabethan.
Yeah, all right.
Let's not go that far.
So, Richard, you yourself have performed in Shakespeare plays in the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, and Shakespeare Santa Cruz. So how have your experiences as an actor informed your directing?
Well, I have acted in Julius Caesar twice, so I have that experience. And also I've worked with some really wonderful directors who I hope I have gleaned much knowledge and experience from in terms of approaching the play.
Okay, great. And I almost called you Brutus. Larry, in addition to playing Brutus, you were the fight choreographer.
Yes.
So tell us what that involves.
For this play, much like Henry V, the violence, battle scenes take place off stage. What we see as the audience is assassination, so Caesar's killing, which I hope we have rendered it in such a way that the audience actually kind of goes, right, as opposed to, oh, look. And then assisted suicides, right? The big Cassius and Brutus. So the challenges in this are not the choreography as much as they are maintaining the intentions and believability of the situations. And for a lot of actors who aren't used to working with stage combat or weapons, it becomes immediately alien to them. And so working through that with Richard to get them in the mind space of that moment, that would be the challenge here.
All right, all right. And what sort of advice would you have for any young or new actors who want to learn stage combat and intentions?
Right. The Bay Area, the #1 school for stage combat in the Bay Area is actually located in San Francisco, and it's Dueling Arts. And I would recommend, because so few schools actually have programs in this area that focus on stage combat and the ability to get certified, that young actors should seek out Dueling Arts so that they can go learn their various weapons and unarmed combat and get certified, because it's a great thing to have on your resume.
Okay, okay, great. And how did you all get involved with Silicon Valley Shakespeare?
I moved back from New York, and I was like, oh, I gotta do something. And I had just come off of like 5 years of principally contemporary theater, and I just sort of needed a Shakespeare fix. And I approached the head of the graduate department at San Jose State. I said, okay, I need to know something. Who around here is doing Shakespeare? And he said, oh, you need to talk to Dina Myers. And that's how I ended up. Okay. Silicon Valley Shakes.
Okay.
Yeah, back in 2003.
Yeah, that was my show. It was Midsummer Night's
It
Dream.
was indeed.
Right.
I've been involved in, I think, every single production in some way since the very beginning. We started actually at Northside Theater. Dina Myers was going to direct a production of Midsummer Night's Dream, and the artistic director said, you can't do that unless you get someone who knows something about Shakespeare, and Dahl knows something about Shakespeare. So she begged me to do it, and I wanted to be in it. So I was kind of brokenhearted, but I have a difficult time saying no, especially to Dina Myers. So I said yes, and the actors had such a good experience with that show. They wanted to keep going. So she and another one of the actresses in the show decided, well, why don't we put on a show this summer? And so they asked me to be involved, and I auditioned for it, and I played Feste in Twelfth Night in the first Silicon Valley Shakes production way back when. And then they asked me to be a staff member, and I said, no, I've got too much on my plate. And then Dina invited me over to her house for enchiladas. Her roommate makes these really great enchiladas, and I was like, all right. And I walked in, and it was a Silicon Valley Shakespeare board meeting. And I sat down at the table, and she said, I don't want to do this without you. I can do this without you, but I don't want to do this without you. And I've been a member ever since. So she kind of, when I say she shanghaied me, I wasn't lying.
Surprise!
Surprise. Okay. But it's the most wonderful thing that ever happened to me.
All right, all right. Now, Silicon Valley Shakespeare wasn't always called Silicon Valley Shakespeare, right?
No, we originally were Shady Shakespeare.
Okay.
Because we performed in the shade, not because we were shady. You used to get a lot of people asking us about that.
All right. The season also includes The Three Musketeers by Ken Ludwig, and also Love's Labour's Lost by Shakespeare. And really quickly, Dahl, because you're the dramaturg for The Three Musketeers, just quick, brief sentence about that show.
It's a great, fun, rollicking, swashbuckling comedy, just like you'd expect the Three Musketeers to be. Three larger-than-life, epic, almost superhero characters. I actually, in a presentation, compared I called the Fast and the Furious, the modern-day Three Musketeers. You just got cars instead of swords. It's that fun adventure.
Lots of fights.
Okay.
Lots of fights.
Excellent.
Yeah. 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hamlet, for instance, only has 2 points of violence, really, if we aggregate the Act 5 moments. Romeo and Juliet has 4.
Okay.
Yeah, Three Musketeers has 14.
14.
Right.
So yeah, it's exciting.
Okay. And the Three Musketeers is running at the same time about as Julius Caesar?
Yeah,
Just some
they'll run
different
in
evenings?
repertoire.
Okay. Excellent. Very good. All right. Well, we have about a minute left, so let's recap for our viewers that Silicon Valley Shakespeare is presenting William Shakespeare's play, Julius Caesar, which will run from July 29th through September 2nd at Sanborn Park in Saratoga. And the season also includes The Three Musketeers and Love's Labor's Lost. And could you tell our viewers where they can go to get more information about the show? Is there a URL they can visit?
www.svshakespeare.org.
Very good. svshakespeare.org. Excellent. And Peninsula Backstage is online as well. We're on Facebook. You can find us at facebook.com/peninsula-backstage. Like our page if you're interested in receiving updates when new episodes become available for viewing online and on the air. And once again, I'd like to thank our guests, Richard Farrell, Doll Piccotto, Larry Barrett from Silicon Valley Shakespeare. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
The whole prospect of a modern Julius Caesar sounds very exciting. And thank you for appearing in costume. We didn't even talk about the costumes, but there they are. And I'd also like to thank our viewers. We appreciate your watching this episode of Peninsula Backstage. And remember to go out and support local live theater.